Hello again. Today, I would like to talk to you about 5 ways to survive the financial impact of COVID-19 in your personal life. Let's get started. So, step one, I want to encourage you to get in touch with your service provider to request an extension on your payments. Due to the scale and far reaching impact of the COVID 19 pandemic, there's a huge possibility that your service provider, that's your landlord, your lenders, all of your other creditors, they may have already introduced a provision to allow for deferment of your payments or a more flexible payment schedule while this pandemic lasts. So you might want to reach out to them, explain how your finances have been impacted by the pandemic and how it's likely to impact your payment. You can also try and renegotiate your existing arrangements and ask to be allowed to make reduced payments while the pandemic lasts as well. Step two, embrace frugality. While many people affected financially by the COVID pandemic, they don't have a savings account or they have very little savings. So it is important that you realize that savings aren't completely immune from the financial impacts. You have to continue whenever possible, even if it's $5, whatever you can, you want to continue saving and you want to limit your spending as much as possible. We're slowly coming to the realization that the pandemic is going to stay for a little while, right? For the foreseeable future. So while economic activities are gradually being resumed, it's important to realize that things are not what they used to be. There is no going back to normal. This is the new normal. So it is important that as you're getting those stimulus checks and your other resources, those bonuses with your unemployment, that wherever possible, after you've met your immediate needs of your family, that you are pulling in the belt straps, looking at what are the necessities, what are the pleasures, and really work on saving as much as possible. Okay, so while economic activities are coming back slowly, it's important to realize that things are not as they used to be. And the likelihood of a long recession is very high. So if you have savings and if you have the benefits from the stimulus package, don't be under illusion that you're financially secure. If you are, then you're likely to continue to spend just as you did before the pandemic. So I don't want you to make that mistake. This is not status quo. Try to limit unnecessary expenses, embrace being a thrift spender, and be very careful on how you're investing your funds right now. Number 3, actively work on other sources of income. So if there's one thing that the coronavirus pandemic has proven, is that there is nothing called job security. Don't ever rely just on your job for your source of income. Instead, you want to be actively working on having 1, 2, or more sources of income. And there's several ways that you can generate a side income. Even though the gig economy has been severely impacted by COVID, other forms of gig work that rely on the use of internet, for example, they continue to thrive. So you should consider maybe freelance writing, programming, web development, other freelance work that you can do online. You might also want to think about starting a blog. Whatever you do, you want to think about how to turn your hustle into your money-making machine, how to make sure that you have something else to supplement your income, whether that's a trade, so that you can be prepared to provide for yourself and your family as we continue during these difficult times. I know some of you may be thinking about taking out a personal loan. I just want to advise you to make sure that you are doing that with caution. Make sure that you're paying very careful attention to the APR, that's the annual percentage rate, or the lowest total interest rate that that provider is offering. And make sure that you just give careful consideration and factor in your other commitments as you consider that as a last resort option. And then you want to pay even more attention, finally, you want to pay more attention to your savings right now. Now, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but there are many of our neighbors and our family members that have been affected by this pandemic, and they are without savings. They are without savings. And if you have savings at the moment, don't assume that the worst is over. Don't assume that the worst is over. Don't start using up your savings unless you absolutely have to. And instead, work to gradually increase your savings and to spend slowly. Be that thrift spender. If you don't have a savings, then gradually start to save whatever you can now, no matter how little it is, in anticipation that things just may get worse. We really just don't know. Things may get worse. Now, one tip I want you to keep in mind as we come to a close is remember, if you did not get the full economic impact payment, you may be eligible to claim the recovery rebate credit. So be sure to speak to your tax professional to determine your eligibility. I'd be happy to help you with that and to serve as a resource if you're looking for a tax professional. Please do reach out. And in the meantime, remember to live frugally.